Hi there, folks. We are back again. So just reaching over here, moving stuff out of the way. I had lunch really quickly. So welcome back to Magnolia Part 2, and we are going to finish working on the very last bud and then start working on the blossoms and the colored pencil parts. And then I've got a really special treat for you with the Posca pen because we're going to use it in a totally different way that you probably don't expect. So it's something completely new for the Livestream users, pretty sure. Okay, so I realized that we went through the first half of the project without one of my lights on. So that explains why it was a little dark. So hopefully this is a little lighter and a little brighter for you too. Looks like I did not have time to move some of my used markers off to the side. So let me get rid of the things that are not working for me here. And all right, so remember, we are working with that combination of R85. We have the R83, the 81, and because these guys are really magenta in disguise, we are using that RV000. And then off to the side, just in case we need it, we have that G40 to make some of those rebel blends. And we've got this one last bud here. We're kind of working. Did you notice we started small and we're getting a little bit larger? You don't have to color your things from right to left or from left to right. I'm going from small to large. Each time I get a little bit larger, sorry, I had a granola bar for lunch there and got caught there. Okay. Each time we get a little bit larger, there's a little bit more intense color to the blossom. So that's why I started small and we're working larger. All right, we have got, I'm staring at this one right here, trying to decide which one to start with. And there is this little tiny bit right back in there. So I'm finding right where it tucks back behind its neighbors. That was the 85. Here comes that 83. I'm going to make sure that we get that on camera there. All right, here's the 81. And I think I'm going to leave it just at that. I'm pulling out my last marker in the series there. Okay, now I'm all set to color efficiently and smoothly. All right, the way I interpreted this is that there is this petal, and then over here on the side, I think right, this stripe over here on the side, I'm not totally sure, but I think that's a petal that's on the back side of the bud. That's how I interpreted it. So it's going to be a little darker than everything else on this bud here. So that's why there's more of that R85. Here comes the 83 over the top and slightly beyond. Here comes that 81 over the top, slightly beyond. And see, I'm way up on the point and I'm doing nice little light flicks. And that's going to keep me from over inking the project and getting that bleed through that Pam was talking about. But you just have to know that Cryogen is a bleedier paper. Nothing we can do about that. It's just the way the paper fibers are in Cryogen. So there's that 85. '81. Notice that as these petals get bigger, so do my flick strokes. I'm never pressing more, but my flick strokes are getting longer and more generous. All the way back there at the start. And when I'm doing this 000, I am coming down close to the end of the petal, but I'm not coming all the way down. So there is just a little bit of white hanging out there right on the edge. All right, this one here, I've got one of these like decisions to make, so that's why I'm slowing down in my talking, because I'm trying to decide. These two petals, this one here that we've already colored and this one here that we've already colored, these are on the side of that bud. This one here, if we want to make it lighter and brighter, we can't use as much of the 85. So I'm like trying to decide how much to put in there, and I'm just going to do a little tiny bit. Okay, not much at all. The more 85 you put on a petal, the darker it's going to be. So there's that 83. Here's the 81. And then here's that 0, 000 really. There we go. And see, that makes this petal a little lighter and a little brighter than those on the side. And that's why this one now looks a little closer to you than the two side ones. All right, so I'm kind of looking at this and I'm not liking that junction up in there. See how I've got like a little teeny tiny bit of white triangle there that just didn't get any color to it? So I'm coming in with the 85, just the bare point of my marker. And I'm just cleaning that up a bit. And I don't even think, well, I do need to blend that out a little bit. But I don't want to start the 83 over again. Okay, this is me thinking on the fly here, guys. I did not plan on having this problem. So I'm blending it with the 81. Yeah, there we go. There we go. See, now that looks like a perfect transition. If I had pulled out the 83 to blend that, then I would have had to start like the whole petal over again. And then I get into Pam's problem again, where you're over inking the image, because the more you put down there, the more it's going to bleed. Oh, and it looks like Pam practiced during the break. She says it works out much better. Yes. So just a lighter hand is all you need. I forget who it was, but somebody on Marker Painting Foundations a while ago was talking about the hand of Thor. This was a couple years ago, and it just absolutely cracked me up. Yeah, when you're pressing too hard, you're using way too much strength. So hopefully you got that worked out. All right, so now we are moving on to this guy right here. And I am kind of surveying the territory here, looking, trying to decide where the darkest area is. And I'm thinking it's this little bit right here, because this little bit right here is the back side of this petal. So I think it's going to be really deep in there. Let me look at my previous sample. Yeah, I colored that deep there too. Okay, so I made the same decision twice. So it must be right. I'm just going to color that whole thing R85 and make that nice and dark. Okay, so let's keep on that same petal. So this is the underside of it, and now this is the side of the lip that's coming around there. So there's the 85, just a few flicks of it, and then we're going to switch to that 83. Here's the 81. And here's that 000. Now I'm not taking it all the way into that first section. I just want it on the lip. I can come back just a little more, give it a little more ink, and see how those two are going to start to separate each other. See how that's starting to look like it's a little turn? We will emphasize that even more with our colored pencils in a bit. So we got a little bit of lip on the opposite side as well too. And I absolutely know that there's no way that these two samples, like the one that it's in your full color sample, so there is no way that the one that I'm coloring on camera is going to end up looking like this one. They're going to be different, because remember, when I was coloring this one, I couldn't see what I was doing half the time. I actually had a flashlight out so that I could see the stamp lines because it was so light. So here I'm able to visualize what I'm doing a little bit clearer, and they're going to be different. because I'm going to interpret some of these things differently. This is at 81, because remember, we're on the inside of the petal now where it's lighter and brighter. There we go. That's pretty cool. That turned out better than I expected. Ha! Sometimes I surprise myself. All right, we got a lip on this next one. And where that lip is deep, we've got that R85. Transitioning into the 83. Transitioning into the 81. And then here comes the 000. All right, this is the inside. So we're only doing the 81 into the 000. And there's more marker to come here, guys, so just sit tight. Because we may have finished coloring this with Copic, but we're not totally finished. There's one more step yet to come here. Okay, so there we go. That's that side there. Try to decide which one to do next. Okay, I am reasoning this out, which one is closest to me and which one is farthest away from me. And because I like to get those far ones done first because they're darker. And this one right here has a lip on it. It's on the back side of that blossom. So I'm coming in there with the 85. And I may run out of room. I may not be able to get all 4 markers into that zone, but that's okay because I know that it's deep and dark in there. Yep, I'm only going to get 2. All right, and then there's the inside, which gets some of the 81, and then it gets the quad 0. It was a pretty good turn on that one. Alrighty, folks, where am I going next? All right. As I'm reasoning this out, see, this one is close to me. It may be down at the bottom, but this one is one of the closest ones to me, so I'm holding off on that one. But this one down here, that one's far away. Now, I'm not going all the way to the 85 because this kind of is interior. I'm just doing the 83 here. There's that 81. Coming in with the quad 0, or the 000. And I'm letting that transition into the white of the paper. Now, you can see my pink lines. These are not disappearing the way they do here. And that is the benefit of printing almost so light that you can't see it anymore, is that, see, there's a significant difference. Just compare those two. Right here, this is that. There they both are. And that's the difference that the stamp line does. So the stamp line is just really faint right there, and this one is much more noticeable. So maybe practice on something that's this strength, and then do your final one on something that's really challenging to see. Okay, again, debating. I've got 4 petals here. Which one is the farthest away? Well, it's probably this one, and that's one of those interior ones. And that was 81, and there's the 000. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And the color's eating away at it slowly. All right, this one is pretty far away. There's that 81. And here is the 000, getting it nice and moist. Flicking down towards the end of the petal, but you notice at no time am I ever taking this 000 and like coaxing it around the outside edge. I don't care if my color gets all the way to the outer edge because I want that color to fade away. So there should be little bits of naked cryogen. There's naked cryogen right here on the far edge. There's naked cryogen right there. There's naked cryogen right there. There's naked cryogen right there. And if it makes you feel better, if you feel like you have to coat absolutely everything with Copic marker, then coat those outer edges with the 0. But just be aware that that moisture is going to start pushing your pink back in. So if you use the 0, you're going to end up with lighter petals than you normally would have. All right, debating which one's closer, which one's farther. This one's a little farther away, so that one gets the next treatment. Here's that R85 because this is an exterior surface. Here's the 83. They're teeny tiny flicks, as in super skinny flicks. And now I'm coming in with that 000, really inking it, giving it lots of juice so it starts to blend out. Okay, here we go. Last one. And remember, this has to transition into the green. So I don't want to put the R85 all the way to the bottom of it. That was 85. Here's the 3, 83, getting closer to the green. Turning my paper because the petal is turning. RV 000, getting everything wet. And coming out kind of close to the edge, but not all the way to the edge. Okay, I got some shaggy coloring going on there. Let's tighten that up. Where's our friend the green? So the G40 comes back into play here. Just doing a little rebel blending there. Making that transition. Okay. We have all of the buds done. And there's one last step to do on these buds. Remember I said we were kind of done with the Copic, but not totally done with the Copic. And that's because we have one more thing to do. So, hey, it's our old friend B60. Here we go. We are going to start some of that pushing and pulling process. So, back here where we started. This petal is sitting back behind this petal. Pop in a little bit of B60 right there. Look at how that pushed it back behind its neighbor. This petal is sitting back behind this petal. Pushing it back behind its neighbor. The reason why I saved this step towards the end is because you guys were already thinking that these looked fabulous, right? You couldn't see the need for the B60 yet. Now you see it because the more you start getting these petals done, see, look at how mushy this is starting to look. See how that B60 is helping to add that extra little bit of push that it needed, but you didn't know it needed it yet. Now don't go crazy with the B60 because remember this B60 ends in a number 0, which means that when you take B60 over the top of the R85, it's going to eat into it. So you can't sit there and hang out all day. This petal is in front of this petal. So I'm just going to give it a quick hit of that B60. I'm not sitting there stroking it. I'm not putting in lots and lots of color. I'm just giving it a minimal treatment. This one is sitting in front of those. There we go. This one is sitting behind that one. Pushing it back. This one is sitting behind this one. Pushing it deeper. Back behind those two. Pushing it deeper. Pushing it deeper. See the difference that it makes? Look at the difference between this one and these guys. Absolutely need that B60 to add in the depth. See, I'm not talking because I'm thinking. Sitting back behind there, sitting back behind there, sitting back behind there. And then this one has that little turn. And that's how we get that turn. And this B60 over the top of these other colors gives it a very soft watercolor feel. Watercolorists are always looking for that oppositional play of color one into the other. And it's not just the pink. Not just the pink. B60 still. B60 is like just this little miracle worker. It's adding just that little bit of depth that we were missing before. And the more you start looking for the grade color in things, the more you crave it when it's missing. So it was killing me to make it this far into the project and not have that gray in there. See how I'm just reestablishing that this is in front of that by pushing it with just a little bit of the B60. Now I pushed this one already, but it needs another push. Sometimes that green can take a little bit more because the B60 is really close to the green in color. A lot closer than the pink is, but see how that's starting to separate those three guys? Let's do a little bit more on this one. Let's really push that one back. This is overpainting. I know we talk about underpainting a lot, but this is overpainting. See how we're separating it? We can pop a little bit more in there. It's kind of an advanced challenge here, but I know that a lot of you are ready for it. Okay, how can we separate these? I think this one's sitting back in there deeper. See how the look at that immediately pushed it back between. All right, and then I'm kind of thinking that this one is sitting back there as well. I'm pretty happy with that. I am stoked about this one. If it wasn't for the darker pink, I would be in love with this version. Okay, let me catch up on some of the comments on this side. I'm getting a little too happy about my project here. Oh, Brian joined us. Yay! Okay, Katie says, wow, big difference in adding the B60. It is. It really is. And like I said, it was killing me to be coloring with just my pink markers because I knew what we needed and I wanted to stop and do it. But it makes a bigger punch if you wait until the end so that you can see how much it really did need it. Colleen says, could I have underpainted with B60 at the start? Normally I do have you underpaint from the start, but this is one of those situations where the marker that we're using, see all those zeros that are at the end of that? There's just no way that this B60 is going to stick around. I mean, you saw what this marker here did to the R85. This is wimpy. It's going to disappear. And so in order to get this noticeable punch of B60 that you see here, you have to put it away. You have to put it down first. Or, I mean, you have to put it down last. If we had put it down first, we wouldn't see it. It would be gone. We would have taken that blue and we would have dragged it out here and we would have dragged it out there, and it would have muddied some of our other colors. They wouldn't be as crisp and as clean and as pink right here because I would have been dragging that blue around in other places. So it's really one of those situations when you're working with a marker that is this light, then you can't do the underpainting. You have to do the overpainting later. And there are other colors besides B60 that you could use. You know I'm a big fan of B60. I love this color, and the more I use it, the more I love it. But honestly, I think you could have overpainted with that same shadow color. You could have used the BG70. I think that would have worked. It would have been a little dirtier of a color because pink and green are more opposites on the color wheel. But I think it would have worked. I think you could have used a BV color. But it would have had to have been something super light. And you got the B60, folks, and you're comfortable with that marker. Everybody knows what to expect from it. So it's kind of fun to pull it out and use it for something that's a little bit different than we normally do. All right, I'm going to recap my markers because we are about to color the stamen. And so we don't need my lighter, brighter colors, and they've been sitting here uncapped the whole entire time. So I'm going to put a cap on these guys while we work on the stamens. And this is going to seem a little strange to you folks, I know. But we are using a medium blue Tri-Plus fine liner. And I know you're looking at your map and you're saying, oh, I don't see any blue on those stamens. But it's there. Trust me, it's there. All right, so I am not doing anything magical here. All I'm doing is tracing over the stamp lines. And the stamp lines are a little confusing, so you can make it up as you go along. Just kind of looking for where Marcella has drawn these little stamens. And I'm just finding them again. And yours are going to look a little different than mine because we're all going to interpret this pink color a little differently. That's okay. But what I want you to notice is I'm not going to the outer band. So there are some stamens out here, and I'm not tracing those. I'm going all the way to the second from the last layer. So see how I'm leaving these outer ones? Not tracing those. Not tracing around the outer edge. Here's one that I can do. There we go. That's what I think we got. So I've just traced her lines. I haven't invented anything new. I've just kind of clarified what I'm seeing. But that's all done with the blue. R89. I could make you try and do little blends on each and every one of those guys, but they're so small. I'm gonna find those outer ones, the ones that we didn't trace the edge around. Just coloring those in. Getting the exterior ones. And I know that it's hard to see the pink lines. You'll be able to see it on your project. Okay, so I went all the way around the outside. No, just fill it in the center. That's why we use the Tri Plus, because it's safe for Copics. Okay, now I don't want to take my blue around the end. I just want to separate these guys a little bit. See how that now looks like they're individual? Just separating any that have kind of migrated together. Turning it upright again. And that's all I'm doing with the Copic. The rest we're going to do with colored pencils because they are so much thinner and easier to control. So I know it looks a little strange, but trust me, it'll get better with the colored pencil. Let's work on these petals. Now, look up there in the photo reference. The inside of a petal, like right here, we're looking at the inside of the petal. That is light and bright when you're looking at the inner surface. The outside of a petal, so right here, we're looking at the outside of the petal. That's where it's curving up around the outside. This right there, that is darker. So this kind of recipe is what we want on the outside of the petal. And then this kind of petal, this kind of recipe is what we need on the inside of the petal. So, which one shall we start with? Well, I was pointing at that one, so let's go ahead and start with that one. There's the 85. There's the 81. Oop, I skipped the 83. Ah, that's why it wasn't blending. Okay, there's the 83. Now let's use the 81. See, real mistakes in real time. That's why they pay me the big bucks. Coming all the way back in here. So that's nice and vibrant there. Okay, the interior recipe, remember, started with the 81. And then finished off with the 000 into white paper. And on these bigger petals, you want to leave more white paper. So I know it's hard to see. Let me see if I can actually lift this up and make this any easier. Yeah, it's getting out of focus. My 000 strokes are only coming down about that far. That's the end. That is all cryogen right there. The rest, everything beyond my finger there is just cryogen showing. So I'm not coating every little bit of every petal. Okay, next petal. We've got an interior part and an exterior part. Got the 81 in my hand, so we might as well just color the interior part first. So there's that 81. And here's the 000. And this is all white. $85, $85, $83, 83, 81, 000. Taking it all the way up to the top. Remember, don't forget to do that, because it's going to soften it and give it that watery color look. Ta-da! Okay, what are we looking at here? We're looking at the interior. I'm not seeing exterior. Oh, maybe, I don't know, I could argue this as being, let's go ahead and do it. Let's be adventurous. If you see it that way, and I see it that way right now, let's color that as if it's a little flip of the petal right there. So we got a little turn. And then this is the interior. And then here comes that 000. Nice long flick strokes. And here's where I wish that stamp line would disappear. Urgh. It's killing me because it's beautiful coloring and it's getting ruined by the stamp line. Oh, hurts my heart. $85, because there's a flip of that lip there. 83. 81. I think I ran out of space, but that's okay. Got another flip right here too. And I think that it's too far out to the end of this petal to have any 85 to it. So this is the 83. I'm going to finish that little flip with the 81. Right like so. Okay, 81 back up in here, because we're working on the interior portion. Bring some of those flicks out longer. And switching to the 000, long, generous strokes. I'm leaving some white there. Okay, there's the flip. When the flip starts at the stamens, you definitely have some 85 in there. 83. 81. And we'll finish it off with the 000. Making sure that we bring that 000 all the way back in for the watercolor effect. Remember that watercolor effect develops over time, so you have to give that solvent a chance to work on it. Don't sit there and stroke it back and forth waiting for the beautiful stuff. You got to wait for the beautiful stuff to happen. White of the paper. I see a flip right there. It was 85 and this is 83. $81, because we're on the inside. $000. Okay, we have 2 more left to do. This one has no flip. There's no flip on that one. 81. Triple zero. White of the paper. Flip and a flip. But remember, these flips are way down here. They're not coming from way up there. So I'm going to skip the 85 because the 85 really appears closest down here. Let's do the 83. Oh, you know what? I can do 85 right up there. Here we go. We're just going to make this flip a little bigger. So that was the 85. Here's the 83. Yeah, I like that. So that was the 83. Here's the 81. And we'll finish off this with the 81. Up here, the interior of the petal. That was the 81, and here's that 000. White of the paper. And you know what's missing now, don't you? B60 to the rescue. All right, I think we started on, did we start on this one? I don't know. Pushing it back behind its neighbors, back behind the stamen, the underside of that flip there. Back behind the stamen, underside of the flip. I'm going to like feather that out just a little bit so it's not a line, that it's softer. Back behind its neighbor, back behind the stamens, back under the flip. A little bit of flip right there. We can even come up just a little bit that way. Make that really feel like it's curving up like that. Under the stamen, under the flip, under the stamens, under the flip, under its neighbor. Under the stamens, under the flip, under the flip, under the stamens, under its neighbor, under its other neighbor. Under the stamens, under the flip. There you go. That B60 just adds that missing depth. I don't like how stripy that is. Aww. I'm really not liking that. This is that 000. See if I can eat some of that away. There we go. Liking that a little better. We'll let it dry. Okay. There we go. I think that's all for the Copic. Colored pencil and the Tri-Plus. Get dark brown Tri-Plus. So there's 2 browns in, we always use this set of 20, and there's 2 browns in there. This one has kind of an orangish cap, but it's actually a light brown. This is the dark brown. So we want the dark brown. Now this is kind of brown on brown, but we're trying to break up the texture of the branch. So I'm doing kind of a squiggly. It's just really subtle. There you go. Can you see that? Now I'm not doing, let me get my scrap paper out, and I'm moving my project, Colleen. See, I listened to you. So if this is the branch, oh, that's an awesome branch, Amy. You should go into branch drawing. Okay, so if this is the branch, I'm not going like that. And I'm not doing down the whole length. Just kind of breaking it up. Doing some long and some short. Like that. So you don't want to make it look like a raccoon tail, but we're trying to break up that color to make it feel like the branch is kind of peeling the way a magnolia branch kind of looks. They don't look smooth. There's striations and marks across the side of them. This is subtle, but it's one of those things that just makes me happy to do because it's a detail that a lot of people don't notice. Deco Pink 1014. The Deco Pink is only going to be in the areas where the branch is light. So you're looking at the areas of R89. And it's going to be on the high side. It's kind of a modified squiggly technique that we just did. Only we're not going across the whole branch. We're just kind of like breaking up little areas, as if the sun was just hitting those small bits. Now those look just a little more textural, a little more rounded. I think I want to bring this down just a little bit into that E area, but not too much. Yeah, that feels a little better to me. I want to keep this one nice and dark because it's getting overlapped by both of those petals. Keep turning my paper around, just kind of look, yep, I think I'm done with the branch. Okay. Kelp Green 1090. Just going to push that a little bit extra. Where we put that B60, I'm right at the base of the B60. Just adding a little extra depth right there. See how that's separating that green area even more? I'm still letting that B60 show. You can still see a lot of B60, so I'm not completely covering the B60. I'm just giving almost as if it's the B60 origination point. Let's find that bud where it comes out from underneath the sepal. See how that immediately separated it? Just kind of breaking them up. And now I'm looking up here and I'm realizing that there was a twist. Oh, I like that much better. Yeah, that feels right. I like that so much. I think we're going to do it on the other side. There we go. Okay, guys, I'm having too much fun with this. Oh. See how that's just starting to break them apart? I'm not trying to cover any of the green, not trying to hide anything that we've done before, just finding where it would be the deepest and emphasizing those deep zones. So here's where that little bud comes out from the sepals. See how that separated it? And now let's start to separate some of those sepals from each other. Separating there. Little separation there. Just kind of working my way through. Any place that I put that B60 is a really good candidate for this kelp green. That looks pretty good. Process red, 994. Just kissing the ends of those sepals, right where they come to a point. I can extend the point and make them nice and sharp. See, I'm extending that point. Carrying the pink over from other areas. If the pigment is present in the petals, you're going to find some of it in the leaf. Sorry, I'm getting quiet on you because I'm having fun and thinking through this. That's one of the reasons why my class videos are pre-recorded and then I narrate them later, because I have a hard time talking when the coloring gets good. Okay, so I really love those kisses, but they're not quite intense enough on the points. So here's my old friend, dark purple, 931. Just kind of coming in and popping a little bit of super intensive color just on the point. And that kind of brings up the value so it starts to match the branch. Doesn't take a lot. Notice I'm not putting much on any of these. You're never going to look at it and say, oh my goodness, I see lots of purple there. It's just the barest of hints there. See, now they kind of look wicked sharp. Deco pink. Softly lambswooling. Some pink. We put blue on, we put the B60 over on that side. Now I'm putting some pink on the opposite side. And that's going to make it look like it's just starting to ripen, starting to turn. Okay, remember those were fuzzy and Marcella drew them as fuzzy except that now with our Copics, we've straightened them out, and now they almost look like beans. We want to make them look fuzzy again. Just bring in some little hairs off the edge. And you can bring some hairs with Pale Sage 1098. Here's some green hairs. So now they're looking a little bit more fuzzy. Shaking my Posca pen. So this is the substitution Posca. They've been commonly available in Europe for a while, but Americans, we were all using the Sharpie water-based, and these have been discontinued. Sharpie has just said they're not going to make them anymore. So the ones that you find in the stores right now all have a pink band and they're oil-based. This is the same thing as that. The housing is almost exactly the same, except this is black and this is white. They have different caps on them, but if we uncap them, same thing. And what's inside both of them is gouache, which I know is kind of starting to trend on Pinterest right now. People have been into watercolor for a while, and now they're moving to gouache. Well, gouache is just modified poster paint. I'm making single touchdown dots on the puffy part. Now this is really subtle. I'm not even sure if it's showing up on camera very well. It shows up in real life pretty good, but it just adds to the soft effect. You see that in there? Now you want to make sure that that dries before you run your hand through it. Blue on it just a little bit. Hello stamens, it's time to work on you. 901 indigo blue. Remember we put that blue underneath there? I'm popping a little bit of indigo blue at the base of those stamens that I drew. So wherever that stamen connects to the flower is getting just a little push back behind its neighbor with the indigo blue. So anytime, like here's a stamen and here's a stamen, I'm going to push that one back behind its neighbor, push that one behind. So I'm just finding those little fingers and I'm deepening the connection point. So this is that push and pull that we usually do, just pushing things back behind their neighbor. And if you skip one, the world is not going to collapse. You might notice it 2 weeks later and you can add it. I mean, there's, 500 of those in there. We're going to miss a few. That's going to happen. We're getting dark in there. Let's see. Donna is asking, why am I using the Posca rather than a white gel pen? Because you see how soft and subtle that is? It's because the Posca soaks into the cryogen. So it looks like I used a colored pencil there now, and you can barely see it on camera. If I had used a gel pen, that would be sitting up like a little Hershey Kiss on the surface of the paper. It would be shiny. It would be very unnatural looking. This looks like I did it with marker or pencil. So this is what you use when you want something that's subtle, because it's going to soak into the paper and not be quite as noticeable. All right, so we pushed all of these little guys with the indigo. Now, I'm going to sharpen my pencil first because I broke it. Okay. Yellow chartreuse, number 1004. I barely ever bring this pencil out. Truth be told, it scares the bejeebus out of me. And I'm going to use that in combination with the Deco Pink 1014. So, finding a stamen, and I'm going to pop a little bit of pink on one side and a little bit of that yellow on the other side. Pink on one side, yellow just on the tip. So what I'm doing here, since it's really tiny and you can't see it, there's those little stamens. I'll put pink on one side, pink on one side, pink on one side. And then yellow, see? Yellow on the tip. Which you can't see either. We're working with subtle colors here. Why do I have this in my hand? I've been holding this for like 20 minutes, it feels like. I've been holding that ever since we did the branches. Okay. I started this stamen process when I was working through it, and I just did the Deco Pink. But the problem is that they weren't standing out and looking rounded. And like I said, the chartreuse, this yellow chartreuse, it's a bold and ugly color, and my instinct told me that I needed it, but it took me a while to work up the guts to do it. So never feel like you're strange or abnormal for being afraid to do something. Because sometimes, you know you need to, but it just takes you a bit to talk yourself into it. And it's true in life, and I guess it's true in art more times than we care to admit. And it doesn't matter how good or how experienced you get, there are still colors that scare us. And for me, I'm not a big fan of anything that's fluorescent. I just don't handle them well. So I was kind of patting myself on the back after I added this because it's practically fluorescent, but I used it well. And I don't usually do that. So I grew and I learned quite a bit in coloring this. Pretty cool, huh? All right. You can definitely over Posca the ends of these stamens. Don't do every single one. I'm going to do 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 there. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. That's about all it takes. And as this starts to soak in, see, it's already starting to get a little softer, a little less white. And that's why we're using the Posca instead of the gel pen, because this is already starting to shift color. It's picking up some of the pink, the Deco Pink that was below it. This one right here is picking up a little bit of the blue that was below it, but they don't look white anymore. See how that's softening as I talk? That's why we're using the Posca. Hello, dark purple, my good friend. Let's push you deeper. And you. And you. Any place that there was that 85 is a good candidate area for getting pushed a little deeper with the dark pencil, with the dark purple. But sometimes it's too strong. Dark purple might look a little weird right there. So you can do some pushing with the process red. Grade lavender. Just some little extra pushes right there. See, I missed getting it with the B60 right there. I know you don't think of grade lavender and B60 as being the same color, but on this paper, they look very similar. So see how I can push with the grade lavender in the places where I just didn't get quite enough B60. If you look at the photo reference, you're going to see some fingers of magenta that are crawling upwards on the outside of those petals. Now, the magenta pencil that's in your Prismacolor set is actually more reddish than this process red. And I know that's exactly backwards. You expect the magenta to look pink and you expect process red to look red, but it's backwards. Fingers. And a few fingers there. They're just on the outside of some of those petals. And you'll take your time and work through all of the petals one by one, but I don't want to keep you here all day. When the petal bends, those fingers are going to bend. So I'm holding these three pencils all in my hand at the same time. I've got dark purple, I've got process red, and I've got that grade lavender. So I'm sitting there with these pencils in my non-coloring hand, and I'm drawing from them as I need each one. And I'm letting my strokes show. Remember, we're being loose and fluid and watercolory. But you're just going to sit there and develop each one of them so that they have that fingery feeling to them. See, the fingers bend as that lip bends. That pale sage, 1089. Remember the Rebel blend that we had? Let's bring some of that green up and share it with the outside of a few of those petals. This pale sage is going to kind of melt into the paper as this ages. See how bright that is right now? That's going to get really, really subtle in a couple of hours. You always have to remember that when you're working with thirsty papers, and Cryogen is a thirsty paper just like watercolor is a thirsty paper. Whenever you're working with a paper that's thirsty, both your Copics and your colored pencils are going to migrate deeper into the paper fibers. And that's going to give you a softer, more subtle look. So don't be surprised if you pull out your Cheerios tomorrow morning and you sit down to look at the beautiful coloring that you did yesterday and some of that pencil work is gone. It's not gone, it's just soaked into the paper deeper and it's mellowed out a bit. All right, you notice I've been dancing around on these blossoms. I've been avoiding this because this gets a totally different technique. We will be doing some of the same fingers of magenta on those outside lips, but I really want to concentrate on the inside of these petals because there's a fun technique here, and that's the bonus stuff. And remember, right at the very beginning, we talked about that muted turquoise. Don't want to forget to refresh your memory that muted turquoise can strengthen that BG70 that we put down. I'm probably not going to show too much more of this process, because this I could work at for a long time. But you don't want to take the muted turquoise all the way out to the edge. Okay, let's get back to these petals here. I am going to be using the pale sage and the Posca for the inside of these petals. So I want you to look at the before and after. See the difference between this petal and this petal. This one has veins, and this one has stamp lines, right? You can kind of see those veins in there, but they look different than this, right? We're going to get this effect here. So with the pale sage pencil, I'm finding Marcella's stamp lines. I'm not pressing super hard, but I am getting some of this green onto the paper. See that on there? Those veins have a greenish tint to them. And we'll do this one too, because this is a nice wide open. I'm not adding any new veins. I'm just tracing what she gave us. Just trust her. She knows what they look like. If you try and draw them yourself, chances are you're going to draw them in the wrong direction, or too heavy, or do too many of them. So just trust Marcella. She knows what she's doing. Acrylic stamp block. This is what you put your cling stamp onto and you stamp. Except, you know me, I'm not a stamper. This is my acrylic stamp block. This is my Posca. See, I got a blob of Posca paint onto it. You see that? Tim Holtz water brush. Doesn't have to be a Tim Holtz, but it does have to be the super fine detail tip. So when we're using colorless blender in here, it has to be a Holtz brush. And that is why, let me reach for it here. That is why I have washi tape on one of them. This one has colorless blender. We are using this one filled with water. Okay, so this is water. The brushes release when you bend the bristles. So I'm bending the bristles to start the flow of water happening. I know it says push there, but if you push, you're going to get a big gush of water that you don't want. So I am off to the side of that Posca paint, and I'm creating myself just a little bit of puddle of water. You can kind of see it moving there on camera. Okay, so now I'm going to pull some of that gouache into my water. And I'm kind of creating a slurry there. And see how I can pull it out and make it thinner? So I have a little river here where this puddle of water is getting fed by the Posca gouache, and then I'm pulling it out. And as I'm pulling it out, I'm bending those bristles, so I'm adding water. So see how this is really thick, intense gouache. And then as you get farther down into my puddle, this is getting waterier and waterier and waterier. Is waterier a word? It is now. All right, so I'm gonna move that off to the side so you can see where I'm pulling from. And let me try and get all of it. I'm gonna get rid of that photo reference. There we go. I've got room. Okay. Here we go. So I'm avoiding this. I'm working from this end of the puddle. I've got some loaded into my brush, and this is why we have to use the Cryogen. You cannot do this step if you're using Express It. I am going in between those green veins that we just rescued. Those green veins, they have Prismacolor on them, so they are slightly water resistant. And I'm just putting in the color really subtle here, folks. When it dries, because I'm using this watery end, when it dries, it's going to be a little translucent. So it's going to let that Copic shine through. I'm just going in between the veins. Now, if you want a more noticeable effect, you can come up to the middle of your puddle. I'm never pulling from that part of the puddle. I'm pulling from this part of the puddle. And I can get something a little more intense right there. I'm never pressing that button that says push. And I'm never putting on too much at once. Now, Amy just asked an excellent question. Could we use regular gouache that comes from a tube? Gouache is almost always in a tube. Always be very suspicious of somebody selling gouache in a dried cake or pan format. That's just not right, folks. That's not real gouache. Real gouache doesn't sit well once it dries out. But can you use regular gouache from a tube with this technique and a regular paintbrush? Yes, you could. But these are tools that I know that all of you have sitting there in your studio. So you have it on hand and you're not buying a new one. But here's the other thing. You're also very comfortable with these in your hand. In order to use the tube format, you're going to use a microscopic amount of paint from the tube. This is already watered down from us. The stuff that's coming out of the tube of gouache that you buy at the store is going to be, holy cow, that's strong, kind of strong. So you have to really know what you're doing when you use this stuff from a tube, because you're going to make it too thick. You're going to have a puddle that you drag out that's like, 9 miles long to get it to this watery consistency. So you can do it, but it's so much easier to do it with the Posca ink. You could use the Sharpie if you've got some of your Sharpie left over and it hasn't dried out yet, if you're one of the fortunate. So there you go. And that, when it dries, it's what's giving us that. See, now that you know the secret, you can see the white that's in that area. See, especially when I turn it. See, that's the gouache. It's not the white of the paper. That's the Posca gouache showing through. Okay, and I'm just noticing something else. I don't remember doing this, but it's a good thing I noticed it. Okay. Posca gouache, you can use it to pull a little bit. Now that looks a little strong to me. Remember, when I watercolor, I almost always have a tissue in my hand, but see how that's soaking into the paper? And it felt too strong, and by the time I even got the tissue and brought it back over here, it had soaked in. So you can pull some of those edges if you need to. So like this is an edge that you could pull. Just pop a little highlight on it. I wouldn't go all the way out to the outside edge because then you're going to lose the pink and it's going to meld in with the center there. But see how that looks like a little highlight there on the end? And as you just sit there and watch that, it's going to soak into the paper and it's going to seem like we did that with a pencil or maybe even a Copic. I'm going to grab from my puddle. Now that feels way too strong. Dab it once. You can pull it up. And that feels better. But that can give you little highlights. So let's do a highlight on this. Right down here. Right there. I had to think about it, decide where to put it. See how that just gives that just a little kiss of something extra. That's pretty cool. See, I could sit here and paint with the gouache all day. And as a matter of fact, Lynn Hamill, one of our moderators, you'll see her on Facebook a lot, she just showed me last night in class, she showed me her flamingo project, and she was doing something very similar on her flamingo project to bring out the highlights with gouache. Now let's just watch that one and see if it soaks in. Not really. Just give it a little hit with the tissue. Yep, that looks much better. You can even spread it out a little bit more. Ooh, I like that. See, I could play like this forever, folks. All right, so that was the Posca on a stamp block, and I do find that it's best if you have a stamp block that is specifically reserved for this, because I've noticed that the few stamp blocks that I do have that have been used or that have been taken to class, they get scratched up and they get little micro scratches into them, so the water flows much better on one that you keep super smooth. So this is one that I keep in a different, I keep this one in my watercolor drawer, and I only pull it out when I am trying to pull up watercolor. I don't use it for inking at all. And then that way it's nice and smooth and the water flows on it better. To clean out your brush, just bend it so that the water starts to flow, and you just kind of work at it until it looks like most of the gouache is gone, and then squeeze it out. You could also rinse it under some water, but I don't happen to have a sink in my studio. That's for the dream studio. Someday we'll have a sink in it. But there we go. Clean and ready to use on the next project. Okay. I'm not sure what else I can show you. So let's go ahead, and now is a good time as I'm cleaning up my area here. Now's a good time to start putting questions in on the sidebar there, because I can spend a few minutes. Let's see, I've got 152, so let's do about 10 minutes of questions if you have that many, and we will answer what you have, and then we will break. Let's see, I'm going to scroll back to make sure that I didn't miss anything else. So it looks like Lisa posted a link for various inks. That's always good to have. You want those markers nice and fresh, especially your G40. The G40 Rebel blending that we were doing, let me pull out my project. The Rebel blending that we were doing where that pink meets the green, it's going to work a lot better if your G40 is adequately filled. If your G40 is on the dry side, you're going to have trouble with the Rebel blends. They just simply don't work as well because there's not as much ink to them. So always a good idea to keep those inks nice and full. And by the way, a sketch marker like so, I fill them to 14 grams, and that's with both the caps on. So that's the full weight. They come a little bit more full than that from the factory. They're probably more like 14.3 to 14.5 coming from the factory, but I don't want my marker to explode on me, so I only fill to 14, and I probably refill them after every other project. So I do refill constantly. Oh, Colleen was asking about the B60 on the petals, and yeah, you just didn't wait long enough. There we go. There we go. Donna is saying there's one large petal behind the next one to it, but I didn't make that behind the dark part. Yeah, sometimes I miss things and I look at them differently, so I could have very well missed something. I'm not sure which petal she's referring to, but it sounds like I forgot to push it, and chances are I will notice it later. I have this big computer desk here that spans the entire width of the room, and then there's a return here along the side, so it's not uncommon for me to have projects sitting out here. I mean, I clean it up a bit for these broadcasts, but it would not be uncommon to walk into my office and see 4 or 5 different projects just sitting out there. So when I talk about something sitting on my desk for several days, it's so that I look over and say, oh, I need to fix that area. get like dust bunnies floating through the room here for some reason. Weird. Okay, so yeah, I missed that, but I very well could pick it up again and notice it sometime later. Sorry, I'm pressing buttons here. Patreon's notifying me that we only have 30 minutes left, but that's okay. We're not going to use it all. All right, so Donna asked about why Posca instead of white gel pen, and I think I answered that one. Phyllis, oh yes, Phyllis likes the way that the colored pencil adds to the image. When I first started thinking about teaching Copics, I was petrified because I'm like, I don't know how I teach the kind of look that I like using just Copics only. And so I went back to the store that asked me if I would start teaching Copics. And I said, can I mix the colored pencil with it? And she was like, well, why would you want to do that? And I was like, this is why. See, this is why I want to. And it just kind of bowled them over. So yeah, that was a quick yes from the store, but I can't imagine using just Copics. They're a wet medium, and when you combine that with the colored pencil, the dry medium plus the wet medium, it's just like a match made in heaven. So yeah, I can't imagine just colored or just Copic. Amy asked her gouache question. Katie says, I love to hear Amy say I like that because it tells me what to look for in my own project. Okay, I will keep saying that because I say it mentally a lot, but I don't want to sound like I'm crazy or something or like I'm bragging. So I will let you know when I like something a little bit more often if that helps you out. That's funny because I've been censoring that part. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of thoughts that run through my head that we won't verbalize, but I'll try and verbalize those for you. So, let's see. Colleen says, all the petals on the blossom, get the Posca and water brush. Okay, so let me go through and kind of tilt this in the light. So, yes, 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 yes. The interior on all of those. It's along this edge. It's along this edge. There's a little bit on that edge. There's some on that. There's none on this one. There's a little bit there. Looking, I don't think I put any Posca on this one, and I don't think it looks dead for that. Yeah, and there's no Posca on this one either. But there is Posca on this one. You can see it right there. That white stripe right there. I like that white stripe. And there's a little bit of Posca right up there. So it's on every single one of the interior ones here, but you're going to hit and miss just wherever you need it on those other ones. And then remember, there's the Posca dots here and the Posca dots here, and there's very few little Posca dots there. Sammy is asking, would I ever consider doing Birds of Paradise? I would consider it. The thing is that I live in the Great Wild North, so we don't have them out. I don't think I've ever seen them growing naturally here or in pots in the summertime. So it's not a flower that I see regularly. So it'll take a while to like click in my head that, hey, I should do that, because I see daisies and I see mums and I see northern flowers a lot, and I don't ever stumble across a Bird of Paradise. So, yeah, I could see doing that because there's gorgeous color to them. And that would be one heck of a rebel blend along the side where it turns from orange into blue into green. Yeah, that would be really cool. So yeah, I'm already considering it. Maybe later this summer, we'll have to see. Pamela is asking, Copic maintenance. I have several chow markers that are full by weight, but they act like it's dry. I don't add more ink. Could this be that I need a new tip? I don't like the chow, but they were my original purchase. Okay, so let me think about that. I think she's saying that they weigh a full amount, which on a chow, I don't do chows as much, but I have the chow full weight written down because I measured them at the store that I work at, that I teach at. Okay, so a chow with the caps on should equal 10.6 grams. That's the way they come from the factory, which means that I would probably fill it to maybe 10.2, 10.3. And if your chows are measuring more than 10.3, then that means that they are actually full and the core inside the marker is absolutely fine. So if they're acting like a dead marker and the core is full, it's a full weight, then yes, you need a new nib. But if you think they're full because you keep filling it and the ink comes dripping out the other side, but then you actually go and weigh it and you find out that the chow is not equaling 10.3 or 4 grams, it's not full, your core is damaged. So the reason why the marker is acting as if it's empty or, as if it's dry is because the core has been damaged. Inside every Copic marker, there is a sponge core. And if that core starts to get dried out, it holds less ink. So every time you let your marker get dry, you're damaging that core a little bit more, and it will never go back up to 14 grams or 10.3. It will never hold as much ink as it did before because some of it is dry and crusty and hard. So that is why you do not want to let your markers get low. I know there's a lot of people that say, well, I don't need to buy any various ink until my marker won't make any marks anymore. Well, you've got a damaged core at that point. You invested $8 in this marker. Go ahead and buy the various ink so that you can protect that $8 investment. I don't understand people that whine about how much these are and then refuse to take care of them. So my concern is I want you to weigh that marker, Pam, and make sure that it really is full, because that's going to tell you whether the core has been damaged. If it's acting like it's dry, it's either the nib or the core. So make sure that it weighs the full amount and then go ahead and change the nib. But if it doesn't weigh the full amount, you know that there's core damage. There's no coming back from core damage. You're going to have to buy a new marker. You can probably nurse it along for a couple of years, but it's always going to misbehave a little bit. So there's no fixing the core. There are no replacement cores. If it's not weighing a full amount and it's acting dry, then it's just best to go ahead and replace it because it's never going to behave as well as it should. Jody is asking, she wants, a butterfly bush with butterflies. I see that a lot. My neighbor has some. Yeah, I could do that, and that would be a fun purple lesson, but I was a little worried that I was doing too many purples, and then I was worried that I was doing too many yellow projects, and now we're not doing more pink projects. So, somebody shoot me a line about some blue projects that we could do. Oh, and I would love to do a retreat in Hawaii, Sammy, but the problem with that is that I'd skip class. If I'm in Hawaii, I don't know that I want to color. So yeah, we cannot do retreats any place that I want to go walking around because I won't be in class. I'll skip class. Yeah. We were talking last night that somebody was running a class on a cruise ship. That would be torture for me to be teaching a class instead of enjoying the cruise ship. So oh, good. Pam just followed up. She says that they weigh between 10.2 and 10.6. So that means that it's a bad nib and your core is absolutely fine. Yay! I'm so glad that we solved that right here. Cool. There are blue butterfly bushes. That would be cool, Jody, because there are not a lot of true blue flowers. They're always usually a little bit on the purple side. Brian says, flowers with or around water. Oh, water would be a great lesson, like pond water or something. Ooh, I might have to look for some frogs or something so that we could do some rushes and some pond water. That would be really cool. I've got more ideas than I have time. Oh my goodness. But yes, water would be a really great lesson. That would be good. I like that idea. Okay, Amy, can you make a note? Don't let me forget that that lesson that we were supposed to do this month that we put off. Let's just take that one off and do water instead. Okay. A class followed up by a group cruise would be my style. Yeah, I could do that. Okay, so it's 2:04. Like I said, I don't want to keep you all afternoon. And my Roomba is going to start at 2:30 and make noise, so we definitely have to get off by then. All right, so if there's no more questions, then we will go ahead and close it down. Don't forget. Now, I haven't seen it myself, but Amy confirmed for me yesterday that on the Patreon board, the community section is blinking on and off. Now, I know that they are doing some upgrades to Patreon, but there's good news here. We are not going to be on Patreon too much longer. Crossing our fingers here. That is like the number one goal that we have going, is to get ourselves off of Patreon. So just be patient and give us some time as we're working on the Patreon substitute, and then we will get you onto an area where you can access the class and a dedicated discussion board all in one space. So that is the goal, and Patreon is our number one thing to move. So we are working on a solution. I have no control over what Patreon does to that community board. I have no control over how they make you sign in and whether you're being asked if you're a robot or to identify school buses or signs or something. I don't set that. I have minimum settings on mine. So anything that's happening is either through, like if you're using Google Chrome, or if Patreon has reset something. So I do apologize for any of these problems that you're having accessing things. The best I can do is submit a complaint, and they don't really listen very well. So, yeah, I would suggest if you're having trouble with that community tab, go ahead and contact Patreon customer service so that they know that we are angry about this, because we are not happy with Patreon, and that is why we are leaving soon. So I am really hoping to move us to a different location. And yes, Donna, if we move to a different location, we will change the way you access these classes. And we're talking about all the different options and how to make these easier for you to access at a later point. Because the whole reason why this is a library and a 6-month subscription is because of our Patreon restrictions. So as soon as that goes away, then we need to reformat how you access the class and for how long you have access to the classes. So we will be rethinking that, and I will definitely take your suggestions and your wishes into consideration, but we want to do it so that it's absolutely fair for everybody. So whether that means purchasing class by class or purchasing, there's that fuzzy thing again, purchasing a year's worth of classes, we'll figure out how to group it so that it's fair for everybody. But yes, changes are coming towards the end of summer. Gotta give us time to have these website builders take all of our wishes, and our wish list is like 5 million miles long. So we are working on it. It is under construction. Every day we are talking about this and doing new things to make sure. But I'm having this built from the ground up because we want to do it right, and we want to do it in the way that's most convenient for you. So changes are on the horizon. You just have to hold on a little bit longer. So as long as we can deal with Patreon, just be patient with us, and better stuff is on the horizon. So Donna likes this idea. Yay. Let's see. Lita has said, I missed several classes due to travel and time constraints. Can we get access to classes that have expired? Not with the Patreon system. Like I said, that's one of the things that we want to change. You're basically just buying library access to what I can house on Patreon at the time, and that's 6 months of lessons. There's no way for me to set up another system to grant you access to the old lessons. So you just got to hold tight until we get to the new format, and then we will start making some of the old things available, either for an extra fee or I shouldn't talk about it because I'm not sure exactly what we're doing, but we hear you. We absolutely hear you. And I know that people are upset that they've missed certain things and they want access to it again. Oop, dog wants out. So, yes, we are working on it. Just hang tight with us just a little bit longer. Okay. I think that's about it. I think I got through all the comments. If I missed anything, go ahead and shoot me a comment on the disappearing comment board at Patreon. But remember, Facebook is always working, so you can always get me on the chat board there. All right?